Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning! Welcome to a sort of rating of all of the different Tactics Ogre soundtracks. So, for those that didn't know, Tactics Ogre basically has 6 different soundtracks, more or less, through the different versions. Now, 3 of them are for the classic version, then we've got PSP and Reborn, and for good measure we're going to throw in the Knight of Lotus equivalents, just because I'm kind of curious to hear those 2 side by side. And we're basically just going to be kind of going through, seeing what kinds of different stuff might have worked, might have not worked, and yeah, obviously a lot of it is subjective, and ideally this would be done in a bit of a stream format, but realistically I want to do this idea today, and also I have no idea when I'll have time to do streams again, so we'll just go ahead and kind of do this on the fly here, so to speak. So the way that I'm doing this is I've taken all the different soundtracks and I've just kind of got them up on my screen here. We're going to go through them one by one, and I'm going to give them a rating from 1 to 6, and essentially just kind of see what thing pops in with the best score at the end of things. And I should also point out that while we have essentially 3 soundtracks for, the classic era, PSP, Reborn, and all of that, Knight of Lotus does have a lot of equivalents for different themes, so I just think that'll be kind of interesting to kind of parse those out side by side. Don't expect this to be too scientific, it's just an excuse to talk about the soundtrack, because I friggin' love it for all of these games, but anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I should actually also point out the intro theme. In particular, will not be covered. The reason for this is for all versions outside of, for whatever frickin' reason, the PS1 and Reborn versions, the intro theme gets me angry messages from YouTube. So, yes, including Knight of Lotus. I kid you not, that one gets me angry messages. I don't know why, but copyright's gonna be like that, so whatever. Anyway, that being said, let's go ahead and get this thing started. Okay, so first on the list is going to be the training theme. So this is On the March in the Reborn version. Right now we're listening to the original SNES version. So this has a different name in, well, basically every single one of them. So the original one here, SNES, was just called Unit March. But it's a fairly basic marching theme. Essentially, we got the sort of build-up of not quite trumpets off in the background. We've got a lot of fanfare going on, and basically the idea was you threw your soldiers into training, and they were going and beating the hell out of each other. It's a nice, happy little ditty here. It flows decently well, and most of the time this is just the theme that you'd hear when you first start up training and just kind of walked away to go do something while your units did their thing. You got a nice little build up there at the beginning. Nothing particularly grating about it or anything else. I would say it's solid and does its job. Not really something you'd want to listen to all of the time, but just something fine to have on in the background. Okay, let's move on to its next version. Alright, so next is the PS1 version. So we've got a bit more emphasis on the drums this time around. A little bit more keyboard by the sounds of it. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, it feels like a little bit less kind of background trumpety kind of noise. The PS1 soundtrack has a lot of hits and misses. I personally don't really care for the training theme that much in the PS1 version. But yeah, I don't know, the contrast between the different instruments is a little bit odd in this one. There's a lot of tracks I do really like from the PS1 version, and this part of it, where it actually starts adding more and more stuff. Like, it seems like the more layers the PS1 version adds, the better it does. Whereas I think the SNES just kind of has it seems to have better kind of balance between its different sounds. Again, I'm not an audio engineer or anything like that. Just kind of personal opinion there. But yeah, I would say, personally, I would rate this one a bit under the SNES version for this theme in particular, but let's see how the Saturn handled it. Alright, next is the Saturn version. Now, a lot of people really, really think that the Saturn version is the best kind of classic soundtrack. On this one, I would tend to agree so far. Because everything's kind of going together nicely, that nice little extra sort of vibrato on a trumpet. Oh, whoops. Thought I muted it there for a second. Yeah, we don't have the grating thing that we had in the PS1 version. We still have that kind of nicer, like, kind of slight flourish towards the end of the theme. We have the same old up and down without really anything sticking out. Like, I feel like this one's probably the smoothest of the bunch, for sure. Interesting thing, by the way, the Saturn version, for some reason, had something against just having normal names for their themes. So, for example, see if you can tell a trend here. SNES version, Unit March. PS1 version, Unit March. Reborn version, you know, what the hell was it here? On the March, right? Saturn version, Scientific Special Effects Zone. Absolutely, makes sense. Also, for no apparent reason, this track is actually twice as long as every other theme in the game, as well as other versions of it throughout the other games, so I'm not really sure why. I guess they looped it twice to try to get around some of that weird skipping that Saturn does sometimes. I'm not sure. Maybe. But, yeah, between the classic versions, I would say this is probably the strongest of the three. SNES coming in second, PS1 coming in last, in this case. There's a lot that I've heard over, you know, the PS1 having the worst soundtrack. There are some tracks that I think are better than that one. Anyway, let's go ahead and continue on. Okay, you might notice this sounds completely different. So this is going to be the Knight of Lotus training theme. Just to kind of have that wild card in there, right? Now, here's the thing. While it is a bit more choppy because, you know, GBA and all of that kind of thing, as far as a training theme that you can listen to over and over again, I've gotten sick of hearing the marching theme a lot of times in all the different versions. I don't know what it is about the GBA version, but something about it, just the utter mundanity of it, somehow does not cause that effect for me personally. But let's see. Let's kind of keep hearing it out here. I think also just there was a bigger variety of maps to train on in Knight of Lotus, since you could basically just do it anywhere. So, like, you could just go train in the friggin' mountains if you wanted to. You could go train in the docks if you wanted to. I don't know. I always thought training mode was handled best in Knight of Lotus. Like, to this day, there's just a lot more stuff going on there. But yeah, I like this one. For me personally, I personally would rate it probably under the Saturn soundtrack, but above the other two. But again, that's just personal opinion on this. So let's go ahead and move on to the PSP version real quick. Alrighty, there's the PSP version. Man, that is some strong nostalgia off of this one, though. So for those that didn't know, because there is no training mode in PSP where you hear this, that's because the training mode is in the main menu. So, if you didn't know, in PSP and the One Vision mod, if you want to have your units fight each other, there's a multiplayer mode in the main menu, and that's mostly what it is. It's a replacement for training mode for you to go kind of like, what if your units? Yeah, even though it said multiplayer, it was more like you just kind of built teams and had them fight each other. So it's multiplayer in terms of you can have your save files fight each other. Cool feature. Definitely half-finished, but still a cool feature, none the same. Well, none the same, what the hell does that even mean? All the same, there we go. But yeah, great, just kind of great overall design on this theme in this one. It flows very nicely, it's got a lot of energy, it's, and not to mention, it just feels really good once you get into kind of team building and whatever else, you kind of start to look forward to this theme. So I guess there's a bit more behind it. But anyway, I really, really like this theme. But yeah, just like all tracks in the PSP version, there's like... The PSP version is basically up there at a solid 8 or 9, 100% of the time. Whereas the other versions are going to be kind of up and down a little bit here and there. Like, hell, there's tracks in Reborn that easily just crack that thing and go straight up to 11, like looking at you, Avilla, Hanya. But, like, you have those ups and downs. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to Reborn now. Alright, so it's going to be very similar. We got a bit more of a little bit more of that light drum tap coming up to the march there. We got a little bit more kind of echo in the background there. Just kind of, it feels a little bit fuller in this one. Other than that, it's mostly the same theme. Though I will say, this one does get docked points a little bit. For the oddly specific thing of a lot of times when you're hearing the training theme, you probably don't necessarily want to be there. Like, even as somebody who loves testing a lot of different things in training mode, I don't know, it always felt, to me, it always felt like it carried that little stigma to it, you know? Like, I love training mode. I wish they'd used a different theme for it, even though what else would they have used? Though, okay, dream version of this, if they ever, for some reason, make a completely unnecessary, like, director's cut patch or something, once they decide to, you know, to go and revisit it yet again, or, you know, or maybe a mod does this. But one thing I always wanted to see in training mode was the same selector they had in Vigilante 8 Second Offense back on the PS1, of just switching soundtracks to whatever you want at any given time in training. Anyway, so, okay, score on the Unit March theme. Personally, I think the win on that one goes to PSP, not only for its kind of sound design, but overall just context and everything else. I would personally vote second place on that one would probably go to Reborn there, just because they did basically take the same theme and improve a lot on it, but you also hear it too much, so there's that. And another thing to point out, for those that actually use training mode way too often, you don't actually have to max out your people at any point. You can literally just skate by minimum level the entire game, straight into post-game. The levels barely matter in Reborn, but, you know, it's the standard RPG thing of you gotta make the numbers go up. It's, you know. Anyway, so let's see. So, yeah, awarding a score of 6 to PSP, 5 to Reborn, 4 to Saturn, because, man, that one's just, like, really, really solid. To me, personally, Night of Lotus gets the 3 in this case, SNES gets the 2, and PS1 gets the 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to Avilla Hanya next. Alright, there we go, the classic! Kind of just funny thing on this one, in the classic version, it's called Hanya instead of Hanya. It's kind of classic old Fenrir kind of translation stuff, I assume. But yeah, we got the nice little hammer beats going on in the soundtrack. Like, the SNES version sounds very kind of, I'm making this with a trash can lid for sure. But it's got that energy to it, you know? Yeah, nice happy build up there in the background as this theme does. Yeah, I love the build up of the drums here. I love how even it all is. Again, this is mostly to kind of somewhat criticize the PS1 version after this, but I really love the PS1 version of this track too. That sound will make a difference in the score here, because I love that little pwing sound. Very quiet little ditty in the background. Okay, man, it's a classic for a reason. It's just a damn fine theme. Alright, let's move on to the PS1 version. There we go. So, this version, they switched out the instruments. We got a bit more of a... God, I can't remember the name of it. Whatever you call that bit on the bottom of a drum that to use the foot pedal on that does the, like, really soft, fluffy ball thing on the bottom of a drum. But a good bit of whatever that thing is. Don't like the do-do-do kind of bit. Could have used a different instrument for that, but... So we got a bit more kind of poppiness to this one. But the build-up I kind of prefer in the PS1 version, personally. Yeah, they definitely did a better job with Avilla Hanya than they did with Unit March. That part's a little short. Like, the little poppy sounds, I don't know, some sounds off about it. But that, like, the choice of instruments, it's kind of the same thing with, like, with the FFT soundtrack, where the choice of instruments played a pretty big part there. So I personally like the PS1 version more than SNES in this case, but let's move on to second. There we go, nice little kind of tippity-tappy on the startup there. Funnily enough, one of the few Saturn tracks that actually does have the right name. Yeah, that I hate, though. Like, the choice of instrument here is... oof. I think I'm preemptively marking this one down for a 1 for that. It sounds like an alarm clock that's fallen asleep. Yeah, they kind of bring it back a little bit here, though. It's like they got a little bit more kind of a background brass, as it were. But just... I don't know. The stuff that's front and center just doesn't sound right in the Saturn version to me, but again, to each their own. And that too. That like whatever they used for that. Okay, I love the ditty here, but the whoop 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 in the background sounds like a dryer to me. Man, it's such a hit and miss kind of version of the theme. Okay, let's take a quick little breather to go look at the Night of Lotus version of this. Oh man, background music 4. These don't even get names. Okay, just listen to this theme. I know it sounds weird at first. Just listen to this thing. Dude, I love this theme so much. Like, that whole thing where it just... You can imagine the cove. Like, you can imagine a cliffside, like, waves pouring over that thing, a bunch of people going and just, like, killing the shit out of each other on the shore. That is what this theme is meant to embody. And, like, the ethereal sound to it all is... Oh, God, dude, I love this theme so much. Like, everything about the GBA sound chip is weird at first, but, man, this theme just, like, brings a dang tear to my eye every time. The reason that I'm saying this is the equivalent is this is basically this game's, like, here's a big special fight theme. So, like, your kind of a Mermaid Cove boss fight here. A lot of your bigger boss fights in general will use this theme. Yeah, it's always for big moments, and... Like, this is the Night of Lotus theme to me. So, one way or another, it's getting rated pretty damn highly. But anyway, let's move on to the PSP version now. Yes! Alright, let's get to the PSP version, dang it. Beautiful build-up, as you'd expect. Like I said, consistent 8 or 9 out of 10 for PSP at all times. It just does not miss. But... yeah, like, this little walk-up could be, you know, that we're leaning towards the 8 on that side. But everything else about it, just perfectly smooth in all ways. Like, great fanfare there, great build-up. Kind of just gets to a nice little crescendo there, that brings it back down for a second. Still kind of goes into that blender of sounds. An interesting note, by the way. This, if you look at the director's notes in the PSP version, like if you go into the sound menu, they have all of those. They have all the little kind of snippets from the sound designers. And in this one in particular, they actually specifically made it so that the lightning effects in the game match up to the beats of the music here, which is just I love that detail so much. It elevates it just for that reason alone. But I will tell you right now, this one is still a 5 out of 6. We already know why. We already know exactly why. I'm putting the Night of Lotus version just under this, because, good lord, it's amazing. Then I'm going to do PS1, then SNES right under that, and then finally Saturn at a 1. And then we get to probably my favorite theme in Reborn. Let's do that next. Actually, no, this one's still going. This part right here feels really nice. This is a little flourish that they added just for the PSP version, or just PSP and beyond. Man, it's such a beautiful little build up there. I love it. Like, just take some time to just kind of breathe, you know? What a theme. Like, I can tell you right now, there are so many people that just got to Chrysara for the first time and just got sold on the game for this theme alone. No clue on mechanics, no clue what the fuck was going on in the story, but this theme told them that there was something special here. Oh, man. And this is when I was tempted to throw in some Antipyretic from FFT, but it seemed like it was a little bit too much of a stretch, so we'll do that comparison at another time. Anyway, let's move on to Reborn now. Okay, so we start off with some beautiful drums. Yeah, they had way more drums, they had way more strings this time around. Ah, this is the Crank It Up to 11 version. Like, I can't even tell you how much of the time before Reborn actually released that I was just sitting there rocking out to this theme, dude. That like, sharp violin crescendo there. Amazing! And we just get the strings involved. They're just kind of just going and having a party in the background. You know, all the trumpets get involved. But that build-up is so good. Yeah, they back up the percussion with some strings this time. They do the same thing of taking a little bit of a break here. Little bit of a piccolo gets involved there, I assume. Maybe it's a flute. I don't friggin' know. I can barely tell the difference between woodwinds, but... Then we get the build-up going again. This part, dude. This part. God damn, that part's good. I love that they added that bit. Oh, man. Like, no questions asked. This one is... Dude, I'm tempted to forego the 6, just give this an 8. I love this version so much. Like, it just goes nuts after this part. Just keeps building up and building up. This part, like, that ladder just going up and up and up and up, dude. God, it's amazing. They knocked it out of the park with this one. Ooh, and then it goes back to the start again. Yeah, dude, this is by far my favorite track in Reborn. Like, it's again a solid like 11 out of 10. It's not even fair. Okay, so I only have time for one more today, so we got to do the classic, which is gonna be Air Land, and let's go ahead and move on to that next. All right, so we get back to the SNES era. Nice little kind of banding back and forth on this theme. Got a good bit of energy to it. Again, as the SNES does, it doesn't have any of those sharp edges. So it's nice, smooth, inoffensive. Like this part. Yeah, the SNES, like, everything about the SNES soundtrack was really good at this kind of stuff. Like, it added layers without breaking that top there, you know? Nice little bring back of that bell that we heard in the intro of the game. All right, so yeah, nice, happy, good energy, great thing to kind of start your day to. All right, let's move on to the PS1 version. Yeah, I can tell you already, this one's not one of the PS1 winners. it loses so much energy in this one. So it's a good bit slower. Interestingly enough, it's only 5 minutes longer in total length. The kind of background sounds they do an okay job with, but just the immediate slowness makes it lose some energy. That little horn bit feels just off, like it's a bit too loud compared to everything else. And the little ditty there, while nice, kind of just feels like it was there because of the SNES version, you know? And again, don't get me wrong, of the classic versions, PS1's the one I play the most. Yeah, Airland, not one of the winners here. I'm already putting it at the bottom of the pile. Alright, let's move on to Saturn now. Likes to call it Marching Song for the Sky. Sure, alrighty then. Yeah, I like what they did with the instruments here. Like, in general, Saturn's got some pretty interesting instruments and all that. It's a very unique sound. But it is still a little slow compared to the SNES version. I mean, honestly, I gotta give the points for this one to SNES, because, like... They did add some bits here for that. Like, where they added a few little extra dings and dongs here and there. Like, it's got more stuff going on. I don't know if it works as well as the SNES version, though. Yeah, and then it kind of just, like, the loop is a little awkward. But, you know, I still would rate this above the PS1 version, though. Okay, let's see what I can find for a Knight of Lotus equivalent. Okay, so I guess this will serve as the Knight of Lotus equivalent of it. The sort of standard battle theme, as it were. Yeah, look, the first time that I heard this theme, it almost made me quit the game entirely, too. It does get better. That is to say, the theme. Like, once we get to this part, it kind of starts making sense. And that's a bit of a running theme when it comes to Knight of Lotus in general. That it has a tendency to have a very unique vibe to it. Like, after you've heard this completely a few times, it starts kind of winning you over, you know? Now, this theme in particular is probably my least favorite in the game. I like what they did with it, though. Like, the kind of plan for how it went, like the sort of overall path that the music takes, pretty legit. I think it's just the, specifically, like, the instrument that they use for that. I think if they somehow gave it a different sound, it would have generally not had that, like, weird something seems off about it kind of sound to it. Because, bear in mind, the first time I heard this, like, I'm just booting up the game, I just finished with FFT, I haven't played the rest of Tactics Ogre at all, and that was quite the, what the hell am I listening to moment, for sure. But yeah, I would say... I'm still rating this above the PS1 version, so let's go ahead and put it like this. Let's put SNES at 4, because I'm already telling you that one's not winning. But that one's going to be at 4. Saturn is getting moved up to a 3. PS1's getting moved up to a 2. Or, no, PS1 is staying at a 1. This one's going right above the PS1 version. Because, man, it lost so much energy there. And there we go. Okay, and then let's go into PSP. Man. So the Airland theme, PSP version in particular, I have this on my phone's playlist. Like, it's got amazing energy to it. It's one of those ones that you legitimately can just start your day with it blasting in your ears. Like, incredible theme, great sound design as always, this PSP version. But yeah. Like, it's exactly... There's a very good reason. One of the first questions that people kept asking, I don't know why, because it seems like a bizarre question in hindsight, but there was a question that people kept asking in the preview period before the game launched over whether the Air-Land theme was still in the game. You've heard it. I don't know why it wouldn't be there. It's one of the most iconic themes. Of course it's going to be there. But yeah. great to see the bells make a comeback, but it's actually good this time. They bring it back, just kind of pitching it up a little bit for a second go-around. This version is actually twice as long as the other versions. They add this little kind of embellishment here, where they just kind of do another little build-up here. Just kind of bring it around for a second go. I love that. My humming is awful, but that's okay. Gotta take it back a little bit, let the woodwinds have their time. Beautiful, man. Love this theme. Alright, now let's go ahead and compare this with Reborn. I mean, okay, it's got a few seconds left. Let's finish up. Yeah, nice little comeback here. Comes back strong, keeps it going for another loop. That little build-up is also really good. Like, Airland, PSP version of Airland has that same build-up Avilla Hanya uses in Reborn. I love it. Alright, let's move on to Reborn. Okie dokie, we are listening to it this way because somehow either I'm being completely blind and half asleep today and can't find it on the music list, or somehow I don't have it unlocked on the save file, but we're just going to go ahead and listen to the Airland theme during this fight right here. So yeah, lots of new work done with the instruments here. Basically every instrument's been redone. It has a good bit more energy to it. Personally, I can definitely see people's opinions kind of swing in one way or the other. Like, it's an interesting case where, like, the Reborn version, if we're talking about would you like to see this in a concert, the Reborn version is, like, basically the live performance version, the one that sounds, like, more kind of raw and powerful and stuff like that, whereas the PSP version sounds like the studio version. Sounds like the one that's been cleaned up a bit more, if that makes sense. Like, I really, really, really love the overall flows and build-ups of this one. Like, it feels like it has more emotion to it, if that makes more sense. So, let's see. Which one would I rate higher, though? Man, the flute bit is really dang good. Yeah, they kind of took a little bit of a sharpness off of that little build-up there. And I love the way that they kind of, some of the little kind of background bits, especially the strings, they did such a fine job with the strings in Reborn. Yeah, I'm gonna have to give that one to Reborn. Like, it's definitely, in general, it has more heart, you know? Like, don't get me wrong, again, I listen to the PSP version all the friggin' time, but, like, if I were to choose one to actively go out of my way to listen to, would probably be the Reborn version here. So, either way, so far, that basically, as far as the soundtrack goes, while this is only the first 3 themes and there's like 50 to go through, that's all the time I have for today. So that's where we're going to leave it at this one. Currently, that leaves Reborn leading by 2 points, give or take, PSP right behind it, and then basically a mixed bag of all of the rest. Like, we basically got a tie between Night of Lotus, Saturn, as well as... No, I think SNES is right under it with PS1 dead last at the moment, but that's definitely subject to change with a lot of different things coming up. So we'll see if folks want to see more of this, and yeah, I'd love to continue on through the whole kind of rest of the soundtrack here. But yeah, was planning to do something completely different today. Was completely dead tired after we did a whole bunch of the stuff with the kiddos over the weekend. So yeah, I figured this was a nice little kind of chill way to start off the day. All right, so y'all have yourselves a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for stopping by, and yeah, can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments and all that.